is Derek Fulton. I run First Trust business in Europe, and we are in First Trust offices in Angel Court in the City of London today. My first awareness of financial services, I think, was watching a TV program called Capital City in the early 80s. There's a guy called Declan had a yellow Porsche in it anyway. So that got me interested in financial services and investment. When I left school, I was fortunate enough, or left university rather, I was fortunate enough to get a job with a company called Murray Johnson in Glasgow, which subsequently became Aberdeen Asset Management. And from there, I had a varied and interesting career working in asset management around the world. I first met First Trust when I was working at Aberdeen Asset Management, and we partnered together to launch an investment fund invested in emerging market bonds in the States. And I enjoyed working with First Trust. I subsequently left Aberdeen, set up a boutique business that ran for a few years, and then had the opportunity about 6 or 7 years ago to suggest to First Trust that it might be time to try and bring what they were doing in the US and doing very successfully to Europe. They had grown very quickly from a sort of startup in the ETF business, not a startup asset manager, but a new entrant into the ETF business, to become one of the biggest players. We saw many of the same changes in the industry and in financial services and asset management that were occurring in the States were going to happen in Europe. And so the owners of First Trust were, I think, very far-sighted and decided that this was the time to get into the business in Europe. And fortunately, they decided they wanted to do it with me. I think when we're talking to investors and explaining ETFs, of imagining them as shipping containers. So a shipping container standardized trade. You could take all different kinds of goods, put them in these, and they could move from boats to trains to trucks, and everyone could trade with everyone. And an ETF essentially is a bundle of securities or investment risks that's standardized and allows people to trade with each other, which makes for a much bigger market and much greater efficiency. So a shipping container, a 20 by 40 shipping container is a steel. You can't see what's inside it. ETF is like a glass box that can be traded between people because you can see what's inside it. So I would think of an ETF as an investment tool rather than a strategy. So a common, I think, misconception is that an ETF is a type of investment strategy which involves simply passively buying the biggest companies in a given index. I don't think of ETFs that way. I think of them as an investment tool, and a tool essentially is a bit of technology. And so collective investment funds are 400 years old, the idea of pooling investors' money and buying a basket of securities and then sharing the profits or risks on that. But they haven't really evolved very much in those 400 years. And all that the ETF does is bring a couple of qualities, a couple of characteristics that people increasingly demand in other areas of their life to the investment fund environment. So, have we reached peak technology? No. Have we reached peak investment fund? No. So therefore, I don't think we've reached peak ETF, because it is a bit of technology rather than a specific investment strategy. Yeah, we'd like to continue to grow our business here in Europe, engage with more investors. We expect we will launch a range of new products this year. We currently have 15 funds. I would hope to have north of 20 by the end of the year, and just for continued positive growth in the business, adoption of ETFs. I think there's a lot of negativity around at the moment, but despite that, markets have performed relatively well. I think last year was very interesting from an ETF perspective in that we've heard a lot from doomsayers that ETFs would, when the markets turns, ETFs will cause lots of trouble. What we had in Q4 was very bad markets, lots of outflows, but interestingly those outflows were from traditional active funds, and ETFs and equity ETFs actually saw positive inflows. Well, we have a great team here. I would very much emphasize it's absolutely not just me. I have a team. We started off with 5 of us here at First Trust when we started in Europe. We are 35 now, and every single person that walks through the door contributes as much on a daily basis as I do. On a personal level, really the interest is just seeing how this kind of technological innovation can continue to disrupt an industry. As an investor, you've looked and seen that with the internet in terms of retailing. You're now seeing it with things like blockchain in terms of other kind of services, and it's just, for me, fascinating to be able to have observed those kind of trends and changes of technology in other industries, and then find myself very fortunate to be part of it in the industry that I've made my living in. And so it's kind of, as an investor and as someone who works in this industry, seeing the two things combine and the power of potential technology change in the industry that I understand more than any other one is what gets me out of bed, plus coming in and seeing all the colleagues as well.